It is mind-boggling that people do not correlate. There's so much that you can change and affect of how you feel and how you age, what we're eating with every single element of their life. I have been doing this 20 years, and the same nutrition questions people asked me 20 years ago, they're asking me today. I think it's gotten so overcomplicated, so many fad diets.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the podcast, You're a Doctor, Right? I'm Dr. Sonya Bhole, a board-certified radiologist, and today I'm so excited to introduce my dear friend, Karina Heinrich. Karina, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor.
So Karina is so accomplished that if it looks like I'm looking down at a piece of paper, I am, because I had to write down her intro because it is so impressive. So she is a top certified integrative nutritionist and a celebrity and sports health coach. She's the founder of the Karina Method, and she is national on-air TV and lifestyle and wellness personality, and she's been seen on Today's Show and Access Hollywood and E!, and she really is a force. So I feel like I'm the one who should be honored to have Karina on our show today. So thank you for being here.
Thank you. I'm excited.
So Karina and I first met a couple of years ago through Monica and Andy, and I don't know if you remember this, Karina, but for those of you who don't know Monica and Andy, it's a lifestyle brand that really supports families and moms and building communities. And Karina and I were on a panel together, and it was really one of the first times I branched out from outside of the realm of my reading room and kind of went out into the community to talk about breast imaging and what I did. And I was all of a sudden on this panel with these incredible women, including Karina, and I had such imposter syndrome. I'm like, I'm sitting here at a table with a celebrity. What am I doing here? But I learned so much from Karina then and now. One of the biggest pieces of advice she gave me that we always talk about is talking about how my kids need me more when I'm older, not younger. So she gives all this advice that is so good, and I carry with me every day. So I thought it'd be really fun to have her on the show to talk about what she really is an expert in, which is nutrition. Before we get started on our episode today, I want to remind all listeners that the content of this podcast is for informational purposes only and does not constitute formal medical advice. Do not delay in seeking professional medical care because of something that you have heard in this podcast. If you have any questions regarding your own health, please talk personally to a doctor or other healthcare professionals. Relying solely on the information provided in this podcast should be done so at your own risk. Now that we're done with the paperwork, let's get started on this episode today. Karina, as you know, the premise of this podcast is what people come up to me at cocktail parties and ask me about. So you're a doctor, right? What do you know about nutrition? And to be honest, I kind of did a little bit of research before this podcast, and I went back through all of my medical notes. Yes, they're notes. It was before we could write anything, which dates me, trying to find any information I could find about nutrition and what we learned in medical school that had to do with nutrition. And I literally found nothing. So I don't even know if we had a dedicated lecture series, or I know we didn't have a rotation. So you definitely are the expert in this topic. And I'd like to just first start by asking you, what is the most common question you get at social events when people find out what you do?
I mean, ironically, people are still so confused about nutrition. We see it on every headline. Everyone discusses, what are you eating? What makes you feel great? What gives you energy? How can you be your most best self through eating?
Right.
And yet we're all just as confused as ever.
Okay, so it's not just me, because I am totally
it
confused.
truly is everyone. I have been doing this 20 years, and the same nutrition questions people asked me 20 years ago, they're asking me today.
Oh my gosh.
I think it's gotten so overcomplicated, so many fad diets. You know, as a mom of 3,
Yes.
I want to be told what to do to be my best. And I think people are at a point where they just want someone to tell them, like, what should I be eating? And I think we have overcomplicated it. So when
Yes.
anything I do, whether it's a podcast or TV or just talking with the client, it's bringing it down to basics. So people just ask me, like, what should I eat? I think I told you the other day, the number one question is people want to know what to eat for beauty.
Yes.
Especially as a woman. That's like,
And the
we're
bullet
all
points,
wanting to
like,
turn
give
back the
it
clock.
to me. Yes.
Yeah,
We don't
and
want
it's
we don't want these long paragraphs and papers to read. We want you to give us just the bullet points of what we need to know.
I'm going to teach you something. And because I know when you ask me some of the topics we could discuss, I mean, it's endless. Like, we could be on here for an hour. But
Right.
you asked me what to eat for beauty, what to eat for energy, what to eat for great sleep, what are happy foods, Mediterranean diet, what are the fads? And I'm going to
Yes.
teach you something that I teach all of my clients. Okay. It's
Okay.
called high, low, lean, no. Okay.
Okay.
So high, you want high water intake, high fiber. So that's things like fruits and vegetables, the no brainer
Right.
stuff, and high clean carbs. So
Okay.
that's where people get a little bit confused with the clean carbs, but that's things like oatmeal, whole wheat bread, sourdough, things that are not the whites, right? The white bread, the white
And
grain.
I just recently read about sourdough, and I'm so glad you brought that up because I'm so curious. I've always in my head thought of sourdough as one of the bad breads or carbs, but it's
It's
actually a good
really
one,
great
right?
for digestion. So, and
Okay.
that's what we all like. The root of inflammation is always in our gut. So,
Okay.
people are learning and more interested in gut health. So, that's your highs: high water, high fiber, high clean carbs. Okay.
Okay.
Your lows are your low healthy fats. So, that's
Okay.
things like olive oil, avocado, nuts, and seeds. So, we want that. We just want low amounts of that. Okay.
Okay.
Then your lean are lean proteins. So that's things like salmon, chicken, all the fishes, and then
Okay.
lean red meats if you have that in your diet. Okay. And then the nose, which I have been saying for years,
Yeah.
nose
Ooh.
added salt, which is
Okay.
really hard for so many people. But I'm so happy when I read about this now on the news that people are finally catching up to this. And then
Yes.
no sugar, which is virtually impossible. I have a sweet tooth. So
Yes.
these are just like as a day to day for all the things you asked me about, for
Right.
beauty, for low inflammation, for breast health, for sleeping better, for literally proven happy foods. If you follow this high, low, lean, no, you're kind of covering, and it's just an easy acronym you can even teach your kids at
I
any
love
age.
that.
We should start younger and younger.
I love that. And it's so funny that you talk about kids too, because I find myself at dinner time. I remember my parents used to be like, eat your broccoli. But now I'm trying to be like, eat your protein, just trying to teach them why there are all these different things on the plate. And I think this is they love, like they sing everything, right? Everything turns into a song. So this is just a really cute song that I can actually even start teaching my kids. So I love it.
Yeah, the more involved they are in the kitchen on what's on their plate, in learning why we want to be strong and healthy and lean, like using those key words, the healthier, hopefully, choices that they'll make when they're not with mom and dad.
Right. So all of these diets, and then we talk about, if I'm understanding correctly, like, one of the most common questions when I was doing, again, research for this podcast that you see that people search online is, about blood pressure. What do I do to lower my blood pressure? And the Mediterranean diet is huge in that. What do I do to lower inflammation? What do I do to be, young forever? And all of these stem from this high, low, lean, no.
I mean, I feel like the Mediterranean diet, if someone was going to ask me what is the healthiest diet out of all the diets out there, I really
Yeah.
think it has the base of everything we want to be consuming in our lives.
And
It's
what
all
is the
research based.
Mediterranean diet exactly?
It's very high, like the high clean fats, low fat, so like
Okay.
olive oil, right, is like a stem, really healthy fishes, not too much poultry, not red meat,
Okay.
things that we know are more clogging of our arteries and kind of slowing us down, super high in vegetables and fresh foods and fruits. So everything I just talked about with that high fiber from the Mediterranean has stemmed the low inflammation diet and the high
Okay.
fiber diet, right? We see all of these different diets on the horizon. And I think that's where we start
Yeah.
to get confused.
Right.
Like, which one is the best one? I want to
Right.
do the best one. And I think if you take a step back and not make it complicated, and really, I work with a ton of youth now,
I love
because,
that.
I have my three kids that are getting
Right.
older and taking ownership of like their health goals and their wellness. And they want to be physically at their peak, and
Right.
I empower both
I
adults
love
and
that.
kids to start making those lists of the foods that they actually like. I just sat down with my 12-year-old daughter who's going to be a teenager. And
Oh my gosh.
ironically, she eats the air. People assume just because I'm a nutritionist, my kids are
Right.
all going to be these immaculate eaters. Well, no,
Right.
they're not. And so I told her, you need to sit down and make a list. And I would tell any adult to do this.
I
What
love
are your
that.
favorite fruits? What are your favorite vegetables? What are your favorite proteins? Healthy fats is high, low, lean. No, you make your list. And ironically, you will, if you're choosing healthier things and kind of switching over, I always say add in the healthy things versus feeling like you're having to take away all of the
Right.
bad things.
Right.
You automatically kind of go towards that Mediterranean way of eating. If you're
Yeah.
adding more fruits and vegetables, taking away more of the red meat and the procured meats and things like that that we know are not great for us. What is going to give us the maximum energy in our life and make us
Right.
feel good? Digestion is so important when we talk about feeling young, looking
Right.
young, and like you just said, in medical school, you weren't studying that. It is mind-boggling that people do not correlate what we're eating with every single element of their life.
Right. I completely agree with you. And actually, it's so funny. If I could go back to medical school now, all these years later, there's so many things that I want to know more about. Like I want to know more about nutrition. I want to know more about menopause. All the things I wish I
Yeah.
could go back and just learn more about that, because it is, you're right. It's so important and it affects everything that we're doing, really.
It's the most
Um,
important when
yeah,
you look at other countries and what they're doing compared to Americans. It is
right.
the most important easy tool that's in our hands. There's so much you can't control when it comes to hereditary wellness, right?
Right.
But
Right.
there's so much that you can change and affect moving forward of how you feel and how you age into those I want to feel as young as possible and as energetic as
Right.
possible for as long as possible.
Right. It's so true. I mean, we all want these things. Okay, so I think it's interesting what you were saying about our kids, and I totally agree. I really, if I really think about it, if I'm really good on a weekend, on Sunday night, I get all my groceries and I meal plan, I feel really good that I'm eating well, my kids are eating well. But the times, which are more often than none, like I think the more common thing in our family is that we're just running around like crazy, right? We travel a lot. Actually, Karina and I ran into each other at the airport over the holidays. I had like a baseball hat on. I was like, no one see me. And of course, I ran into gorgeous Karina at the
Oh
airport at the
yeah.
baggage claim. But, I think we're running around, especially when traveling on the weekends. I actually eat the healthiest when I'm working on the working days because I pack my lunch, right? And I think you've told me this before, just packing, thinking through it. I have my veggies, I have my leftovers, it's the nights and the weekends that I'm just like grabbing whatever I can eat when I'm driving my kids around in a car, which makes me worry that I'm eating what they were eating, which isn't good. So, what advice do you have for moms? I'm sure you get this all the time, for moms, for healthy snacks for us and healthy snacks for our kids. Cause I find myself just shoving a bunch of things into a Ziploc when we're traveling and running around.
I think that us as women and parents, we take so much time to put
Yeah.
our workouts on the calendar. And I think we need to take just as much time to plan out our meals and snacks and fill our
Right.
house with those things. And I think it takes a little legwork up front. And I'm not kidding about I so I have these guides and I tell people to fill out, there's a section in the back, and I would empower everyone to fill this out and to write down what it is you guys like to eat as a family. And then you
Right.
know what those snacks are. So if it's turkey roll-ups with string cheese, great. If it's make your own trail mix, I make batches of peanut butter bites.
Oh, I
So you
love that
said you
idea.
do like meal planning. Well,
Right.
I think the same goes. And even if you need to print it and put it on your fridge and say, okay, my kids love a high carb, high protein cereal mix that I put almonds in. So I pack those
Right.
little baggies that I take on the go. There are some protein bars and like kid bars. None of them are great, but as long as you have that planned out, the less likely you are to feel like you're just grabbing at whatever.
Yeah.
I do a lot of lunch boxes in the car and
Yeah.
then in control, and I have the really healthy, I slice up the apples in there. Like we have the little bento box lunch boxes, and I
Yeah.
always make myself one.
That's smart.
So the same that you plan for your kids, either I find parents are themselves eating healthy, like you'll plan a little salad for you, and then your kids are eating like crap,
Right.
or your kids are eating really
Right.
great because you've planned out their lunchbox and you make sure it has like the apple slices and the carrots or the hummus or like the healthy crackers, and then
Right.
you're eating junk because you've gotten so hungry. So I
Right.
think if you can take that step back and take ownership and say, what does our day look like? When are we going to get the meal at home? If we have 15 minutes at home, is that Greek yogurt for me and the kids with some healthy granola and some berries in there? Is it hummus with carrots? Is it a peanut butter and banana sandwich? We eat
Right.
so many peanut butter and banana sandwiches on whole wheat. Side note,
Yeah.
I pulled professional athletes and they have said that is their go-to because it's the perfect
Oh,
ratio of healthy carbs,
right.
of protein, and then the healthy fat. So it's that
And
high,
it
low,
fills
lean,
you
no,
up.
and a
Yes.
sandwich, and it fills you up.
Right. I
So
love
my
that.
kids get at least one of those, and I do too, a day on the go.
Mm. And I love that because it's a comfort food too, almost. It's like a kid food, kind
It's
of, but it has
amazing.
the
And then you can
healthy,
have
yeah.
Greek yogurt on the side, or, if they need like the milk box, or, I think also looking at your plate and asking if your plate is high, low, lean, no, or your
Yeah.
lunchbox or your snack. Like, are you making sure to cover each of those categories? Once you have some go to snacks, some go to meals, then you type it out and you put it on your fridge and you say, here are your three choices, kids. What do you want today? Let's go. We're all taking ownership. What are you going to have?
Yes. I love that.
Then there's really no excuses. And again, it takes a little legwork, but you're already doing that when you're planning out your family calendar, when you're putting your workouts on the calendar. So why
Right.
aren't you doing that with your food? Why is food always left to the rush when you guys get home at 7 p.m. and everyone's cranky and really hungry,
Right.
hangry? That's not
Hangry.
the
I
time
get
to be
hangry. Yes.
grabbing, the
Right.
on the go stuff.
Well, it makes so much sense, and I love that, like, how no matter how old your kids are, like, my twins, as you know, are 4, but they're
Yeah.
really into right now making things with me. So then I find myself, getting these boxes of, like, junk to make, like, box cake because they wanna mix, but involving them in making the trail mix at home and involving
All
them
of
in
that.
making these, like, protein balls at home. I didn't even think about that. Those are such
The
great
protein
ideas.
balls, we go through I have to double batch, we go through them. I'm
Wow.
always like, "If you're hungry, if you're that hungry, you can have one of those first." I always
Yes.
tell my kids, "If you're hungry, have an apple with peanut
Right.
butter."
Right.
Apple with peanut butter. I mean,
Yes.
luckily, we don't have any nut allergies in our house, so
Right.
we're very high with the nuts and the trail mix, but get them involved in everything.
Yeah. I
Let
love
them
that.
fill the bento box, lunch boxes up. Let them
Yes.
pack mom's snack. Say, "What
That's
should
oh,
mom
that's a
have?"
great idea. I love that. I
Like,
pack
you
your
guys
lunch, you pack
switch.
mine. I
Yeah.
love that. And I love bringing I should get a bento box for myself. I'm literally going to get off this podcast and buy one online because I don't have one, right? And that's such a great idea to have the little bento box for mom that I just throw in also. I make their lunch. Why am I not making mine? I have no idea.
Yeah, we make it all
Um,
when we travel, like, my husband gets one, I get one, we all get one, so that they see the more you can be that role model,
right.
that this is mom's eating it too. Mom is eating on the go. Mom is not eating something totally different than you.
Right.
Like, we want strong, energetic bodies, and mom needs a snack too.
Right. And
We're only
it's
as good as we put, we show up for.
right, and I love that because actually true, my daughter pointed it out last night because usually I'll make them something and I make something just slightly off, and this week it's been a lot of bowls, a lot of, whatever, like tacos. Instead of tacos, we're making taco
Yeah.
bowls, or instead of sweet potatoes and chicken, I'm putting it on arugula and making it into a salad. So a lot of bowls this week. And my daughter yesterday was like, "Mom, why are you always eating something different than me?" And I was thinking, I'm talking to Karina tomorrow, so hopefully I'm gonna get inspired because they don't need to always just eat chicken nuggets and hot dogs. They can start
No.
eating what we're eating too. And maybe it's better if they start eating what we're eating, you know?
I think the sooner you can do that, the better. That you
Yeah.
show them that this is our family dinner. Like, we're
Yeah.
not and believe me, all moms, I too. We've all been
Right.
there. Like, my kids have, yeah, I have the nuggets, I have like the kids food, right?
Right.
But I think it's really important. Maybe they can have the kids food, but they also try your sweet potatoes, or they try quinoa, or
Yeah.
the more that they're adding to that list, and have each of them have their list too that they're adding
Right.
to. Ooh, I tried your sweet potato dish, mom. I loved it. I'm going to add that to my list.
Right.
Let them
No,
take
I love this.
ownership that they're adding more than just the nuggets.
Right.
And the more
No,
you
that,
can
that
add
makes
to their
sense.
palate. Yeah, it's
Right.
fun for the family.
And it probably makes going out to eat and stuff a lot easier, because I just feel like my kids only eat certain things and it gets so frustrating and it's boring. So I love this. And I think involving them and all of these is just a really, really great idea. Just switching gears a little bit. I mean, you talked about it earlier, the fad diets. I
Yeah.
think, I do get overwhelmed by it. I'll get an email and talking about a diet, the intermittent fasting, all of these things. Could you talk a minute? I know we didn't talk about this, but could you talk about intermittent fasting and kind of
Yes.
what your thoughts on that? I would love to hear them.
So I am not into many of the fad diets. Anyone that's ever watched me on TV, I am definitely not pro. However, intermittent fasting is one that I fully believe in.
Okay.
It's been around for centuries. It's nothing new. It's not a fad diet. I do believe it's not for everyone. I would say for every 10 clients I work with, there's at least 2 to 3 that it's just not meant for.
Okay.
It's a lifestyle. I do feel like as Americans in general, again, generalization, we are constantly eating.
Right.
We are feeding
Constantly.
ourselves so much, so often that we don't even have a chance to register if we're even hungry
Yeah.
or if what our body is, how our body is feeling post food. I think intermittent fasting is a beautiful, very researched, positive way to give our body a chance to catch up on digestion. I love the 16-8 where you stop eating at 7 or 8 at night and then you
Okay.
break the fast the next morning for lunch.
Okay.
Different clients that like to try this different ways. I think even there's health benefits even if you did this one time a week. I have been intermittent fasting for probably a decade.
Okay.
My first meal is lunch. However, it fits my lifestyle. I think with your lifestyle, if you're starting the day very early
Right.
and you're in clinic and you need that energy to go, go, go,
Right.
it but waiting all the way to lunch might
Yes.
not be the best. But I think one time a week, if you can find a day that you're off or a weekend day, just to try it and see how your body responds. I do think our bodies do love time to catch up where you're just drinking water. Now,
Yeah.
most people I would say, I'm going to try intermittent fasting and they do it all wrong.
Okay.
So they have morning coffee and they put cream in their coffee and they think that they're not breaking the fast until lunchtime. Well, they broke the fast the moment they drank the coffee with the cream in it.
What about coffee plain? Is that breaking the
Coffee
fast?
plain is great.
Okay.
So coffee plain, yeah, I can't live without coffee.
I know. I
And
was like, "Oh
coffee
my
is
gosh, I don't know if I can
actually
do this, Karina."
I know coffee is actually uh, very researched to be very healthy. It's a happy food.
Okay.
It actually is something that I really encourage people to continue to have in their life when they're
Okay.
trying to get rid of things that aren't working for them. I'm like, well, coffee can stay. I
Great.
encourage everyone to try intermittent fasting. Obviously, if it's something that they're healthy and they've cleared by their doctor and they're not somebody that, gets lightheaded without food, but I
Right. I
just
mean,
think
that's number 1, right? And with any of
with
these things, we
anything with
always wanna
nutrition,
talk to our doctor first.
talk to your doctor first.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like I'm a broken record. Like, talk to your doctor first. And then if your doctor agrees, I think it's something super positive to try.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah, well, when you said coffee, I was like, "Oh my gosh, there's no way I can try this without my coffee." But maybe I can try it with black coffee. Maybe I'll be able to do it. You've mentioned it a couple of times, the happy foods. What constitutes a happy food and what are these?
So for a while during COVID, I would say, I think you asked me what's my number one like requested TV,
Yeah.
you know, and it's always, it still remains to be beauty. But for a long while, happy foods was the number one topic. We needed things to like uplift us. And there are actual
Okay.
foods that are proven to be mood boosting foods that can help reduce anxiety, increase calm, great for brain health, really overall moods. Because they're high sources of like things like vitamin D, which we know is like the sunshine vitamin, folate,
Right.
B12. So a lot of people started to kind of focus on these nutrient dense foods that will go to help
Mm.
lower stress really and then boost brain properties that we know kind of are those happy endorphins, right? So like if a mom is just looking at like breakfast alone is like the best time to get all those, or if you're intermittent fasting, move all those breakfast foods to lunch. But coffee is probably one of the number one, so 3 to 4
Okay.
cups. It's been proven to like increase alertness, attention, improve your overall mood, kind of give you that pep in your step, right? But you want to cut it off. I say around noon or 1 because you don't want that to backfire and then you can't fall asleep at night,
I mean,
which
that's my
everyone
issue,
is
right?
no one is
Yes.
great and happy when they
Right.
aren't getting enough sleep. Another one of those breakfast foods are bananas because it's high in tryptophan, which is like that
Okay.
feel good feeling we get and also helps with a good night's sleep. Berries are shown to like elevate mood, lower risk for depression.
Mm.
Eggs are really high in vitamin D, which I told you is like that sunshine vitamin. I caveat with eggs 1 to 2 full eggs max per day. You can knock yourself
Okay.
out with egg whites. And then folic acid. So, adding in that into like maybe high fiber oats or leafy greens in your omelet. Oranges are high in folate, and that is
Okay.
proven to help boost mood. So many foods, again, can affect our overall energy, our
Yeah.
mood, how we're sleeping at night, how we communicate, how we take stress, which is what we're
Right.
all going through on a day-to-day basis. So I feel like people are focusing so much on working out, which I love and is so important. It should be part of your day-to-day, but
Right.
don't realize they could be counteracting every good thing they're doing by having foods that aren't doing them well.
Yeah. That makes so much sense. Karina, I could gush over you and talk to you all day, but I feel like we've learned so much. And, I just want to kind of summarize, but I'm going to have you help me summarize because as opposed to some of the other episodes that I've done, this is one I really don't know a lot about. And you truly, truly are the expert in this. So, in terms of diets, all of these diets seem to stem from similar concepts. And this high, low, lean, no. Can you go through it really quickly one more time?
Yes. So high water intake, high fiber, so fruits and vegetables, and high clean carbs, so
Okay.
things like oatmeal, whole wheats, right? Low fats, so things like avocado, olive oil, nuts and seeds, we need those in our diet. Don't be afraid of them. Lean
Okay.
proteins, things like salmon and chicken and quinoa and beans and lentils. And then
Okay.
cut out the salt, put the salt shaker away. There's so many amazing medicinal spices to use and reduce that sugar that we are all so addicted to. So high, low, lean, no. If you
I
can
love it.
focus on that on every plate, every snack, every meal, you will be adding so much goodness to your overall diet and wellness.
That's amazing. It's such a simple way of thinking about all these different diets. If we can just follow that, all of these diets kind of stem from that. And then adding in, like you said, some intermittent fasting for those who are okayed by their doctor to try that and are able to tolerate it with their lifestyle. Adding that into it, you should be really good and we'll be young forever. So it's perfect.
There you go.
And then just the other thing I learned is I really, really want to bring this into our life and our house is really involving our kids and starting now, teaching them about these things, involving them, having them help make trail mix or healthy snacks, having them make your lunch when you're making theirs. And actually, again, just, reiterating that, making your lunch when you're running around and on the go.
Yes.
It's not just your kids. You have to be healthy too. And you can be really, really a role model for people around you with this. So I just always learn so much from you and I just appreciate your time so much. So thank you.
And thank you for doing this. This is, getting wellness. If people walk away with one change.
Yes, I agree. And I think with this one, I think people will walk away learning a lot. I will. So I know our listeners will too. So thank you so much.